Nico Williams to Barcelona. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, it's not a new name to be linked to Barcelona. Of course, we spent much of last summer talking about Nico Williams as a target for Barcelona. It didn't happen last year. Essentially, Barca weren't in a position financially to make it happen last year. It's back on the agenda this year, and the biggest development, I think, in the last couple of days is Nico Williams making it pretty clear, certainly according to reports, that Barcelona are his preferred destination, not interested in the Premier League, in Bayern Munich. He wants to go to Barcelona, and certainly reports in the last 24 hours that in terms of a contract, in terms of a deal for the player, that those sort of terms are agreed and in place. Now, of course, that's not to say that it's a done deal, because the next big step will be for Barcelona and Athletic Club to negotiate. Now, of course, negotiation wouldn't be necessary if Barca wanted to go and pay Nico Williams his release clause, which is 58 million euros. But given Barca's finances even now, they're not necessarily in a position to go and pay that kind of money all in one go. They've just paid the release clause of Joan Garcia, the Espanyol goalkeeper, of course. And so if they were to want to negotiate some sort of deal in terms of structuring the payments, they'd have to go and talk to Athletic Club. And the relationship between Barca and Athletic Club isn't the best, partly because I think Athletic being unhappy with the Nico Williams pursuit last summer. So there's potentially some issues there in terms of the two clubs reaching an agreement. So it's certainly not a done deal. It's certainly not all over, but it looks like Nico Williams wants to go to Barca. And in terms of the agreement between Barcelona and the player, it doesn't look like there'd be any issues there.
So that's obviously the financial side of things and the transfer side of things. On the pitch, this happens. We're going to be asking you this all summer. You know, it's not the first time, won't be the last. How does this work?
Well, I thought you were going to ask me what happens with Rafinha. I thought that was a question.
This is what we're asking. What's happening on the pitch now?
Rafinha, let's just go back before we go forward. Now, we went through this last summer, and Rafinha seemed to be on his way out to make space for Nico Williams. Now, he goes on to have the sort of season in which some people would argue, and I wouldn't argue against it, that he should be one of the front runners for Ballon d'Or. That's the sort of season that Rafinha had for Barcelona. And the reward for his performance is, you know what? You know that thing that was pushing you out the door last summer? We're actually going to go and revisit that. Now, I'm not against Nico Williams being part of Barcelona, because if you look at Spain play and you have Lamine Yamal on one side, Nico Williams on the other side, yeah, that's pretty dynamic. But those are not, when I think of the issues that Barcelona has on the field, that's not one of them. Attacking is not a problem. Scoring goals is not a problem. Was not a problem this past season. And so in terms of needs for Barcelona, and this is where I would stress, if this is a criticism and I want to build it as so, Barcelona don't need Nico Williams. They don't, in terms of priorities. I suppose if he just falls on your lap, you take him. But this is not falling in your lap. You're reaching out to go and get him. Again. And it was proven that you didn't need him to be as explosive as you were. Name me another team in Europe that was as explosive consistently and as dynamic as Barcelona were in the attack last season. You can't come up with a team. And so I must say, if I could speak Catalan, I would say I have no clue. But I cannot speak Catalan, and so I'll just leave it to those that can. I just don't understand it.